This is a question for everybody. Who here considers themselves traditional? Starting with you, go ahead.
I have some traditional viewpoints.
Yeah, I think in your notes here you said you're open-minded traditional.
I am, yeah.
So are you traditional?
I'm open-minded traditional. You can have more than just one viewpoint.
But if you were to categorize yourself generally, would you categorize yourself as traditional? A traditional woman?
I am a traditional woman on the inside. Aside from what I convey to the world and what I do for a living, my own inner values are traditional.
Okay. Wait, before I have
would you
anybody...
Would you determine that somebody who claimed that they were not a communist, but went to every single communist rally that there was and wore a communist uniform and wore a nice little communist hat and did nothing but speak about how much they loved communism, but then said privately to you, secretly on the inside, I'm not really a communist. What do you think people would think? Do you think people would believe them?
You just called me or equated me to a communist.
No, I'm asking you a literal
quick.
I'm not only am I not calling you a communist, I'd like to know the answer to this question. If somebody, all they did was talk about how great communism was and they wore a little hat and a uniform and just ran around saying communism is the greatest thing ever, would you believe them that privately they just really don't like it though?
It's
internally, they're really a capitalist.
Quick answer to this, please, because this is a question for everyone.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm traditional. There.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty traditional. Yeah. Besides from my occupation, yes, I am.
Sorry.
Besides from my occupation, yes, I am.
Yes.
I would say I'm pretty traditional, yeah.
Traditional woman.
Okay, so traditional.
What makes you a traditional woman?
You guys are not traditional to be like, well, I don't know about like you three, you, and you, because you're engaged in sex work.
So I don't.
You're not traditional.
Well, I did say that I'm not looking for marriage right now or a relationship either.
Yeah, but
so
it's
with
just
that
like you're
being
not a
said,
traditional woman.
With that being said, I'm not right now, but when I'm not working and stuff like that. And
but how can you hold those traditional values but still engage in something that goes completely against what
I said? Whenever I do end up wanting to find a husband in the future, I wouldn't be doing this at that point anymore. And then would I be a traditional woman?
Right, but currently you can have like traditional values of what you want to be in the future. I understand that, but you're living a lifestyle now that is not portraying that at all, so you can't necessarily.
And I said that when I said my answer. I said besides my occupation, no. But
then what makes you a traditional woman?
I have traditional values,
but
I'm not dating, so I don't apply those to my everyday life.
What are your traditional values?
What do I believe traditional values are?
What are your traditional values?
I'm not applying those because I'm not looking for...
But you just said you are.
But just in general, like you're not dating, you said outside of your occupation, you're a traditional woman. So what is a traditional woman if you had to, X, Y, and Z?
Like what would I label as a traditional woman? Okay. Somebody that takes care of like the house, takes care of the kids, cooks,
You don't
cleans.
want kids, right?
That's what I'm labeling as a traditional woman.
Okay,
is that what you're?
right.
Is that what you were asking? Okay, so.
Go ahead.
Let us assume for a moment, if you don't mind, that a person came over to you and said that they were a Christian who worshiped Satan. Would you believe that they were a Christian?
No.
You and all your little analogies.
If a person came over to you and said, I'm a Christian and I worship Satan, would you believe that they were a Christian?
I said you and your little analogies. I'm not answering.
I know what you said, so I just reasserted the question in hopes, maybe in vain, that you would actually answer it.
I'm not answering your question.
Whoa, hold on. That question doesn't reveal any I can see why you objected to the body count question
No,
earlier.
I'm not answering it just because it's like that's not what we're talking about. I'm
It's a
talking.
hype.
He's using it as a comparison.
No, I
because-
understand that, but he's been doing that a lot.
And
Yeah, I know.
There's
I
nothing
do-
wrong
I do
with
tend
it.
to test people's logic and their worldview so that I can apply whether or not they're being consistent with their own framework. And so what you said
I said
here,
when
and I'm not
ready
beating
to
up on, listen,
retire
I
from
don't
this
care
industry-
about your past. I don't give a shit about any of that. All I care about is what you said. So what you said right now is this. You said, right now I'm not a traditional woman. I concede that that's true. But in the future, I want to be and can be a traditional woman then, later, right? Okay, got it. So all I'm doing is just setting the foundation to show you kind of the absurdity here. If
It's
a
not
Christian came to you and
absurdity.
said that they were a Christian
It's
but
not
worship Satan,
it's not
would you believe
absurdity.
them?
It's not absurdity.
Do you?
Well, hang on. I can demonstrate to you how absurd it is. Just answer the question.
No, because it's
Would-
not absurdity.
Would you, if a Christian came to you and said that they worship Satan, would you believe they were a Christian?
It's not absurdity to
Here,
me.
answer.
Okay.
Engage with his
Okay,
question.
well, let me just ask the second part then, because we know the obvious here. If a Christian came to you and said, I'm a Christian, but I worship Satan, but later on, I'm going to worship Jesus, would you believe them then?
No clue.
No clue.
Are you just not going to engage in good faith with his question? It's a totally fair question to ask.
And you can ask one back. I'm not adverse to you asking me questions back. Like that's
I'm
what
just
engage.
saying
Like the
what my
okay, so this
opinion
chick over
is. I
here,
don't
we
need to
were
jump
going
through,
back and
like, the
forth for
hoops
a bunch of this, but
You think it's absurd. I don't think it's absurd. Can we agree to disagree? Because we're adults.
May
No,
I?
exactly.
no, we
so
can't.
I'm
well,
okay.
I don't want to agree.
I agree to
I don't want to
disagree,
agree
so-
to disagree because that's like saying this.
So you,
I think murder's great. You think murder's not great. Can we agree to disagree?
those are two-way, totally different things.
Yeah, but when we're testing
We're talking
morals, they're
about
not.
me being a traditional woman if I ever decide to even want to get married. Those are two way
To clarify,
different things.
you're saying right now that like in the future you have the potential to become a traditional woman and you could see yourself becoming
Yes.
that basically. Okay.
Right now, I know.
Right. Okay.
It's not that hard to understand.
Did you say you want to say something?
Yeah, so let me correct myself. I do not consider myself a traditional woman as of right now.
Wait, you just said you are.
No, well, that's what I'm saying. Let me correct myself.
Oh,
But I
okay,
do
correct.
have
All right.
those beliefs, like, in the back of my mind.
What
you know.
traditional values do you hold on to?
Being a staying-at-home mom, not wearing the pants in the relationship, cooking, cleaning, quitting my job for my husband.
Is there anything stopping you? Like, is that finding a traditional man who wants you? Is that what's stopping you from being traditional?
Well, yeah, as of right now, I feel like no man would want to date a stripper. You know, they're not going to want to take me seriously.
Hold on, I've got some questions here for you three. Should a guy should a guy be chivalrous and should he pay for the first date and be a gentleman?
I would say yes.
Yes.
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't have any preference on this? Have you been on first dates?
I have.
Would you pay for a
Do
first
you
date?
would you feel
Well, Brandon didn't pay for the first. I mean, he paid for the first date. I didn't, and he knew I was a stripper, so I.
wait
genuinely
into the
don't
mic,
know.
but have you been on other first dates
I
with
have.
guys?
I have
How many first dates have you been on?
like 2.
Only 2? So with Brandon and one other guy and that's it?
No, 2 other guys, and they paid for the first date, but
Would you feel like okay, you're on the first date with guy, the waiter comes, he's and your date's like, oh, 2 checks please. You would be totally cool with that?
I would be a little embarrassed, but I mean, I would.
Why?
Why?
Would there be a second date if a guy did that?
I do not know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I don't know.
Well,
Between.
I'm giving you a scenario.
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't? You can't say I don't know to this question. What do you mean you don't know?
No, I can. I don't know.
What
Okay, would you
depend on?
prefer
Can
a
I-
guy to pay for the first date?
I would, but due to my job occupation, I don't know if it's right or wrong, you know.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I see what you're
So
saying.
I would feel like
Okay.
a little confused because I don't know.
You would feel a little confused.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, would you?
Maybe I can define this pretty easy for you. So traditional, if you're going to define it the most concise way that I possibly can, it would be experiments of the past which worked, right? That would be traditional. Experiments of the past which worked. That would be like a very feminist definition of this. I use a biblical definition, but I'm not going to get into all that because who cares? None of you will. But experiments in the past that worked, right? So that's what's meant here by traditional. So which of those experiments of the past would you be moving towards for traditionalism?
Can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, so experiments of the past which worked, things like maybe the nuclear family, right? Things like that. That would be a good example of experiments of the past which worked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so what would you be moving towards as far as a traditional woman?
I think I would prefer a provider, but then again, it's kind of hard if I'm still a stripper.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the reason I brought up the who should pay question is, so that's a traditional gender role expectation that's placed on men. You're engaged in sex work, you're engaged in sex work, you're engaged in sex work, you're a stripper, escort, OF girl. These are not traditional things. What now? I actually think that you'll still get this traditional treatment from men, but why would you feel entitled or expect traditional treatment from men when you guys are not traditional women yourselves? That seems like a raw deal for the dude.
Well, that's why I don't date. As of right now, I haven't been dating, and that's what I've said the last 2 podcasts as well.
Well, you said you were dating a bit.
Well,
I think you're just saying that.
No, I think I did say that the first one, but I haven't been.
You said
since that.
You said you've been on dating apps, and if I recall, one of our previous conversations, you said you actually don't disclose to some of the men you date that you're.
I don't
an
tell
escort.
guys that right off the bat when I hang out with them, hey, I'm an escort. But I also don't right off the bat sleep with guys. And I
Okay.
think that I don't need to disclose to everybody that I'm a sex worker for safety reasons. For top one, most importantly.
Wouldn't the safe thing to do would be before you even meet them, say, hey, just letting you know, I do this work.
No,
and
because
then if they still want to
guys-
date you.
No, I don't. But I'm not dating to the intent of marriage.
Doesn't matter.
Right?
Okay.
Am I using
So
that in proper
so
terms?
You're saying that
I'm not
I
dating
fuck
to
the men
date guys.
and I don't tell them.
I don't fuck guys, and I just
you've
said
never had
10 seconds ago that I'm not dating them and fucking them right away.
So you've
now,
never,
if I come to that point where we're comfortable enough to where I want to fuck him, then I would disclose that information.
So every
But-
man you've slept with while doing escorting, you've disclosed in each instance that you're an escort.
to the guys that I've been intimate with recently, yes.
No, I didn't say
Coyote
recently.
5
I didn't say
donated
recently.
$100. You clearly know that your job is affecting your life. Money is the root of all evils. It's not worth it. Leave stripping. Go to school and get a job that your kid brother is going to really respect.
If I recall correctly from your previous appearance on the podcast, you said,
I can't remember
if
what
I
said
recall,
my previous.
you had sexual encounters with men without disclosing to them that you're also an escort.
I can't recall what I said in my last episode.
If I
I'm
recall
telling you
correctly,
right
I
now-
could be mistaken, but
I'm
I'm
telling
pretty
you
sure.
right now that I don't meet guys at a bar or on dating apps or whatever, and for the first couple hours I'm like, oh yeah, hey, by the way, I'm an escort. Why? Because that's none of their business. For starters. For two, I'm not about to go and fuck them this same night, this week, or even this month.
So you want to trap them
No, I don't
into
want to
liking
trap
you.
them. No,
You don't
I'm
want to
just being
disclose.
casual.
You don't
right
want to
now,
disclose
I'm having
something.
casual friendships with men, and I'm not having sex with guys. I'm not dating guys right now.
Don't you think your occupation, though, is important for even if a guy you're just casually seeing and going on dates with is an important thing for them to know, even if you're not
Do
dating
you
with the
guys know
intentions
that a
of
lot
marriage?
of girls in my line of work get murdered and all types of stuff for just being sex workers?
Here's an
so
idea.
why would I just right off the bat tell a guy that I've only met for 2
Oh my
hours,
God, this
hey,
is
I'm
like-
an escort?
Holy fuck. Okay.
Ryan
I gotta
Fulcook
address
donated
that. I gotta address that.
$100. Only a Christian can worship Satan since Satan is a construct of Christianity. All Christians ACK the devil. Laughable. Smigel is my God. Brian, you would rather die than be a SSS.
I'll pray for you.
Ray by 4 Russian GIs.
It's really sad.
Well, no,
Okay.
Pray for you
that
too.
just to respond to the super chat, that actually doesn't follow that you would have to be a Christian in order to worship Satan. You could worship Satan and still believe in the hierarchical authority of the heavens and not be a Christian. That there's no reason that it necessarily follows one to the other. That's absurd.
Yeah. Okay. Coming back to the point you just made, you said you don't disclose your work for safety reasons. Now, don't you think it would be safest to like just before you even meet them in person?
Because if you look at what's happened in the past to girls like that, that's not safe. You don't just go to Walmart and are like, oh yeah, by the way, I work at Moonlight Bunny. I don't just go around saying that for safety reasons, for stalker reasons, for all types of reasons. You don't know. That's why you carry.
The logic is not.
No,
really
it does
making
make
sense
sense.
Maybe No,
I don't.
because-
If I plan on being intimate with this person, or I plan on inviting this person into my home and stuff like that, then on
I
that
think you're
level,
making a drastic.
of course,
For
I
your
will
own
let them know.
For your own safety, you're making a
I'm not
massive.
gonna let a
just let me finish.
stranger-
Stop.
No.
Let me finish. You're making a massive misjudgment when it comes to your safety. If your safety is your primary concern, I would strongly encourage you to, before a guy starts getting emotionally invested in you and you omitting and hiding, hold on, stop. You omitting and hiding this thing that could be a major, major deal breaker for him, I would strongly encourage you to disclose before you even meet them, which would be the safest thing. If you just say up front, before the guy has an opportunity to meet you in person, but if you like bamboozle a guy, let me hide this away from him, and then he builds a connection with you, I actually think you're putting yourself in much more danger.
So are you done?
I have a
What's with the
question.
fucking attitude?
Because Brian, I literally just said I'm not intending to date, and you keep reiterating the fact that I'm trying to date these boys that I'm meeting at the bar for an hour or two. Like, I'm not dating them, therefore I will not be telling you about my occupation. Now, as if I'm going to be dating you, I will. There's two differences there, but you keep trying to beat the fact that I'm about to be fucking this guy and that I need to tell him. Of course, I get it. But I'm not dating them.
I have a question for, at what point, like, someone in your, like, line of occupation, what point do you believe would be the best point to tell them, in your opinion? Like, the safest point.
If I'm dating them?
If you're dating them.
I don't know, because I haven't gotten there yet. Myself, I have not gotten there yet.
Or not for yourself, just, like, for
On a
anybody.
previous podcast, I'm almost certain you said that you've had casual sexual encounters with men and did not disclose your profession as being an escort. Is that true or not true?
I literally said I don't know what I said on my past
Forget what you
episodes.
said. What actually occurred? Have you engaged with men sexually and not disclosed to them that you're an escort?
No, I really don't have sex outside of my work life.
You said recently.
I
Ever.
don't really have
Ever.
sex outside of my work life. Like, for real.
If I recall the podcast, I think you said you did, though.
Can I add something?
I can only talk about right now and what we're talking about.
You don't
right now.
recall previous sexual
Yes.
encounters?
So, I mean, since you're on the podcast, they're going to know where your line of work is for your safety. So I'm just saying the public and how many viewers there are. So I was just kind of throwing that out there.
They're allowed to know where I work. You know what I mean? The Moonlight Bunny Ranch is an established, legalized brothel.
But they're going to know your line of work because you're on the podcast.
I know. I've
whatever.
been on this podcast before.
I was just disclosing if you were for like safety purposes. I mean, you're on a public platform and they're just going to be aware of your line of work.
I understand that, but I don't just go telling, and that's different, but I don't just go having face-to-face conversations with people that I meet at a hotel lobby or at a bar and be like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm a stripper, or by the way, I'm an OnlyFans girl, or by the way, I'm an escort. Like, why would I have to say that to somebody that I know that I'm not going to go take upstairs and fuck them in my room? Now, if I was, that's a different story. I'm telling you guys that right now. So, Brian, you getting mad at me and getting upset with me is not kind of cool because I'm literally just telling you, like, right now.
Seems like you're the one who's upset, to be honest.
I keep reiterating the fact that I'm not trying to date right now because of my line of work. You know what I mean? And then you're like, but if you're going to sleep with guys and you're going to date them, and I'm like, I'm not.
I'm so glad I'm not dating donated $100. The FDA needs to get involved with these hoes. At least I know when I buy ground beef at Costco, I know when the expiration date is and it's not rotten. Let me help you strip a hoe, yes, sir, zip it.
Oh my God. Look, this all stemmed from you guys all claim you're traditional. Like y'all know, you aren't traditional.
And I said
you're not traditional.
That
You're not traditional. You're not traditional. No offense.
No offense taken.
But do you, okay, so you asserted you're traditional. I disagree with you.
And that's
So
fine.
are you,
Living_core donated $100. Brian, you used to seem a lot happier than you do these days. Is all of this really worth it? This line of work would make any of us cynical. Not judging.
truth be told, actually, the conversations that actually occur at the table pale in comparison to like all the bullshit behind the scenes. Like dealing with fucking flakes and all that shit. That's the stressor right there is, bro, we're dealing with like cancellations, flakes, all that shit. That for me anyways, these conversations, look, sometimes it's a bit annoying. The shit behind the scenes, that's the stressor.
Yeah, we're not taking the conversations personally. See, I do have a chatter here, though, who did pull the clip from the previous episode and says, a quote, she did say that she slept with men and did not tell them, and that she also uses dating apps and doesn't tell the men she's an escort in the dating apps.
Well, when I use the dating apps, I don't even go on dates with these guys. Like, I've literally been on one date with a guy, and I disclosed to him that I was an escort and we didn't even sleep together. So, and since then I've deleted all the dating apps and I'm not on any dating apps.
I mean,
and I've been focused, and the last podcast that I've been on was, I think it was in October timeframe.
But
so since then I've been exclusively.
I'm looking in the past. So maybe since then you've changed shit up, but. Oh, this fucking girl over here. Hold on. Okay, so I said you're not traditional. You said you're traditional. Are you changing your position that you're not traditional, or?
No.
So you still consider yourself traditional?
Oh yeah.
Even though that like your Instagram is totally immodest and you do porn, and there's probably, I've not done a deep dive on your Twitter, but I would imagine there's pornographic videos of you on Twitter, correct?
Yeah.
You've engaged in sex work. These are not really traditional things. So how do you reconcile that?
That's, that's kind of like a thing with your own inner battle, right? So and it's all about like, you have your persona, you have what you present to the world, and then you have your core. My core beliefs, my core on the inside is different. And that's okay.
So you hold two conflicting sets of ethics?
No.
Your persona.
Oh well, then I'm so confused.
So I've made peace.
Either your inner core is that prostitution's okay or it's not okay, and I would say that by any retrospect, anybody who would consider themselves traditional and uses traditional ethics would say prostitution was immoral, right?
Okay, and that's your value, but that doesn't mean that I can't have my own set of traditional values and apply them in my own everyday life. I may
She's
not
really
be
right.
the traditional person
so
or the
ridiculous.
Not
ideal
right.
traditional
These are-
woman, and that's okay. But that doesn't mean that I can't have my own traditional values in my everyday own personal
Oh my
life.
God.
What are
Okay.
your own traditional values
That's
that you
like
have in your
saying-
own
It's like
life?
the most
That's like
toaster
saying a
brain
movie
fucking
actor
take.
is like
What?
being
No,
like.
that's-
Yes, it is. It is though. You already know what I'm gonna say. It is.
Comparing a movie actor
That's like she's like-
and having a script and a scene is
She's gonna be
different than
all the
pornography.
actors and all that. Like no, all the characters and stuff like that.
That is vastly different than engaging in pornography and saying that your inner being is different than the persona that you
no,
put
because
out
it is
there.
because when you're a stripper, it's an alter ego. Like
But that is still
you
you,
pick
as
a different
human being.
name, and it runs different.
That
Like
is still affecting your brain. That is still affecting your relationships.
but
in
you
your
gotta
life,
know
and
that it's work and how to separate the two, because that's work.
If other
So
men,
to get this right, the internal you is an ethical, traditional trad woman, but the you which is presented to the world is a prostitute.
I'm
and
not a
you
prostitute.
see that there's no conflict between the two of these whatsoever, because the internalized your set of internal ethics is that this is bad, but your external ethics are that you're going to do it anyway because you want fucking money. Is that right?
I am not a prostitute. I do not do
I
prostitution.
didn't say you. I was talking to the gal who
Okay,
was just
then
speaking.
great.
I'm sorry.
if okay, I'll say this. So it's like you guys want your cake and to eat it too.
Oh, and it's delicious.
On one hand, you want to push your liberal, feminist, progressive, equality values as far as humanly possible. Sex work is fine. Men are insecure for not wanting to date a woman who's getting blasted inside of
I
by
did
other
not
men.
say
Hold
he
on.
was insecure.
No modesty, no public-facing modesty at all. You want to sleep with a bunch of men and be promiscuous. On the other hand, when it comes to your admittedly sexist and gendered expectations of men, you may as well be 1950s bachelorettes. You want men to be chivalrous, you want them to be providers, you want them to be protectors, leaders, take all the initiative, pay for dates, get you flowers, open the car door, get down on one knee, spend 5 figures on a ring and propose to you.
I don't
and that's
even wanna
just
get married.
absurd.
I don't want to get married, and you know that.
Okay, do you want a guy to be a leader in the relationship?
I don't want a relationship right now. Back to square one of what I've been saying.
You never want to date a guy ever.
I'm not saying ever, but right now,
Okay,
within
then
the
that's-
next 1 to 2 years, no, I don't.
Okay, so you're temporarily celibate. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. You are temporarily refraining from sex.
Engaging in relationships other than work.
This is a dating podcast, bro. We're talking
I
about
know.
dating. Yeah. So how about this? Instead of just like shutting down the conversation by saying, well, nothing applies to me because I'm currently allegedly not dating. Why don't
I
you just
do engage a
project
lot.
Billy
yourself
Wet
into
Wet
the
donated
future?
$100.
God.
Shout out to my boy at Thraxx Milky, first time viewing this show. On another note, y'all are far from traditional.
Traditional. Thank you. That's a new one. Zabi Wet. It's just like men are waking up, realizing how much of a raw deal this is. And it's just like, you got these non-traditional women that demand, that expect, that feel entitled to traditional treatment from men, and it's fucking bogus.
But I
Just admit-
found it.
just
I have
admit,
found it
like,
with someone in
I
my
wouldn't even
industry.
give you-
I have that, so it is possible.
No.
And I even invited him on this podcast, and you guys said you're not casting men, and you didn't care to have his perspective.
So
Like,
would you stop doing porn to continue dating him
Absolutely.
entirely?
Absolutely.
Why not?
So
do you
Brian,
mean, why
Brian,
not?
is this
I
like
said
Why not right
absolutely,
now?
I will.
Traditionalist?
Why don't you guys
What's
stop?
that?
Is this like Schrodinger's traditionalist now? Is
I
that
guess
where we've gone? Schrodinger's
Look,
traditionalist?
I'm not fighting to prove my stance that I am a traditional woman. I have my own set of traditional values. I have found success in a relationship with someone who provides traditional dynamics
Yeah.
in our relationship, and I am happy. They are understanding because they are also in the industry, and I found that. And
He's not
we-
traditional either,
So,
then.
but then why wouldn't? So he's still doing scenes.
No, we both quit.
You both okay? So you've stopped entirely from doing porn.
Yep.
To
We
pursue
both
a
have.
relationship
Yep.
together. See, that's beautiful, and I think that should be how it is. And I'm that was going to be my next question: is did you stop to be in a relationship? How long have y'all been together?
It is about 2 months that we've made that commitment to and we committed to monogamy. We both acknowledge how that would impact our careers. I have stopped accepting pro porn scenes. Because I am putting this relationship above that, and that's my personal choice, because ultimately at the end of the day I do have traditional values, and anyone in porn or in the sex work life can change and find a man of value.
Are you guys doing OnlyFans together? Or are you doing any scenes with you and your partner?
We are completely monogamous, no longer sharing or doing anything. We've tried, so we had our initial, we were together, we both acknowledged we were in the industry, and then we were like, hey, I don't want you cream pieing other women. And he was like, okay, sure, I get it. And I said, you know what? I don't want you deep thrusting inside of another woman while making out. That's a no for me. And we started putting all these little things and restrictions. And we're like, you know what? No, this isn't going to work. That's still not enough. That still makes me feel a certain kind of way.
Just be monogamous together.
Exactly. And so then we were like, oh, maybe we'll share women together because I'm bisexual. So then we tried that. And then I was like, you know what? No, I just don't want you getting pleasure from another woman. I want to be the only reason you come.
Yeah, these are just preferences. There's nothing about them that are
I'm so glad I'm not dating donated $100. Brian/Andrew. Take a vacation. 90 acres in the mountains. Nice campfire. Plenty of guns to play with and a romp in the skid steer will do your mind good. No infected out here in the woods?
Talking about zombies? Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate it. Look, I wouldn't even have so much of an issue with it if you just claimed, I'm a modern woman. I'm not traditional. I dress immodestly. I do sex work. I have OnlyFans. Just say you're you're modern.
Was modern on the menu for my choice?
It was not on the choices.
If you're not
non-traditional,
if you're not traditional, what would the opposite of that be?
Okay.
The question I asked is, going around the table, are you traditional? So that could be a yes or it could be a no. But when you claim, yes, I'm a traditional woman, but we can actually point to things in your demeanor, in your behavior. We can look at your public. We should pull up their Instagram.
Well, let's ask it a different way then. Are you a modern woman or a traditional woman?
I would say I'm modern. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Great.
Oh my God, bro. We just wasted fucking 50 minutes trying to explain this shit to them.
I have a question about traditionalism. So you say you have these traditional internal values. You're a modern woman and you're now in a monogamous relationship. Mm-hmm. If your future daughter came up to you and said, hey, Mom, I want to go into the porn industry, what would your reaction be to that?
I would ask her why. What do you want from
money?
That? Okay, then I would say, what other avenues would you want to explore? What are the reasonings? I'm not going to say, no, don't do that. Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask and get an understanding, because if she's my daughter, then that won't be, her only option. She will have options.
What was your reason for getting into the industry?
My reason for getting into the industry was I actually went to church 3 times a week. I worked my way up the corporate ladder. I was 5 years as a business development manager. I've done the traditional life. I've done all of that, and it did not serve me. And so during 2020...
So your traditional values are for sale?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, you're saying
you expect
I was a
me to
traditional
drown,
woman. I did the whole
clinging on to my
thing.
values and drown.
Hang on. Let me finish.
Sure, please.
You're saying that you were a traditional woman, but the money just wasn't right. So you sold out on that for modernity, right? So you could get that good, cool cashioli, right?
Actually, it's not easy money, despite the public's
But it's
idea.
a lot more money, isn't it?
It's how much effort you put into it.
But it's a lot more money you're making than at your corporate job, huh?
Absolutely, because I'm working 10 times harder for myself.
So what it is that traditionalism for you is just a matter of price, isn't it?
No, it's not.
If it paid you more to be
I still
traditional,
have those
if it
values
paid you
inside
more,
of me.
hang on. If it paid you more to be a traditional woman. If you're going to make $1 million a year being a traditional woman, you'd take that buyout so fucking quick, it would give that guy wallet burn, wouldn't it?
I have traditional values, and that is that. That doesn't mean...
As long as somebody can pay for them, right? Then you have traditional values.
Horse.
But the second it don't pay very well to be traditional.
Actually, no. I put in effort. I've been working since the day that I turned 14. My first job was on a farm. I have put in hard work, and I got to where I wanted to be. And then I said, you know what? I'm ready to elevate it. I was in an industry. I was in the business development industry for restaurants. And I looked at the top and I said, no, that's not what I want for myself. That is not the position that I want to have. So I'm like, if I'm going to make a transition, now is the time. And it was pandemic 2020. Where else can I find a cush salary job right now? So
right. Money.
I actually traveled and I found beautiful autonomy, and all of these people from all over. No, they weren't all sex workers.
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
I'm sorry, you've talked way too much tonight. I'm sorry.
Well, your guy keeps engaging me, and all of the women are.
Okay.
So.
Just last thing on this whole traditional thing, and then I'm going to shift gears here. So it just seems like to me, many women have just completely abandoned and cast aside any and all of your traditional gender roles, yet with the utmost entitlement still expect men to adhere to their traditional gender roles. So that's always interesting to me. Just really quick here, since we've clarified a little bit, modern versus traditional, just going around the table once more, do you consider yourself a traditional woman?
Modern woman.
Traditional.
Modern.
Wait, scoot your mic closer to you.
Modern.
Microphone straight. Go ahead.
Modern.
More traditional.
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 Okay.